So now we will talk about how to analyze an environment, okay? So basically, your strategy is not only about setting up your goals, but it's also about understanding whether your goals can achieve your objectives in the given environment. As I mentioned, imagine that you would like to become a doctor, right? But you will find out that there's too many doctors in the market, right? You still can remain pursuing this strategy, this objective, but you might also change, because now you're looking outside of the window of your house and you're deciding, okay, maybe I should adapt, right? Maybe if my primary goal is my life happiness, right? I might not achieve it by being a doctor because I will be miserable. I will not have any job due to the change in circumstances in the outside world. The companies are facing the same problem. When they are looking at their goals, they might need to factor in the impacts of the environment, right? So no doubts about that. If you look at all those successful leaders, investors, entrepreneurs, Warren Buffett, you can always see that one ability they have is to always know something more about the world outside than others. See what we can say. Sometimes we say, see behind the corner, right? So they can see the changes coming just right before the rest of the pack saw the change coming. This is due to the fact that they are able to analyze the environment better than the rest of us. And also, obviously, their success is also given by a host of other reasons, but this is one of those reasons. The ability to understand the environment. Now, in the corporate strategy, we can use tools to help us analyze the environment. The idea is here that if you just decide, okay, so let's think about what are the outside influences that can have an effect, negative or positive, on our strategy, then you might just randomly name things that come to your mind, right? Like, well, the weather is fine, the currency exchange is not that great. And this discussion would be very unstructured, and you might not reveal all those necessary, I would say, parts or necessary aspects of environment that might affect you. So, in order to overcome this, there's been many models that help us to analyze the environment better. First of all, I'd like to start with PEST, PEST, or Pestel, it depends. There's many variants. I'll stick with PEST, PEST. But the PEST model is a model that basically allows you to understand that you need to look at the different aspects of the environment to get the whole picture, okay? So let's look at what the PEST stands for. The PEST stands for political, economical, social, and technological environment, a components environment. So the idea is that before you actually set up your goals, before you write your strategic plan, you will look at all those four areas of environment and say, okay, is there a positive or negative effect that this environment will cause us later on when we are executing our strategy, might cause us, right? So for example, what are those political things? Political things are things that are connected with political and legal environment. So maybe it's also legal, right? That's the Pestel reason why the L is there sometimes, because there's legal. So every company is facing trouble in facing possible adversities coming from political and legal environment. There can be regulation. So you are a car manufacturer now, and the European Union decided to regulate the production of cars, or decided to regulate the emissions, the acceptable emission standards. So all of these things will eventually have some sort of effect on your business. You might need to change your strategy. You might need to become a supplier of electric cars instead of regular cars, just because the environment requires that, right? The political situation change. Now you're legally required to produce 20% of electrical cars. You need to change your strategy, right? You need to acquire new resources, new people. It might be a difficult task for you. But anyhow, this is the political changes that might come, right? In any industry, there might be some regulation. In China is now going through last maybe 3 to 5 years. My experience is going through radical changes in how they perceive environmental legislation. So some companies suffered due to that, due to the fact that they need to now fulfill many new environmental regulation, which is of course good for China, but maybe bad for some specific companies. So before you start creating your strategy, you might need to look at your political and legal environment. How is it affecting you now, and especially focus on how it's going to affect you in the future. The same goes for economical environment. The economical environment is also important, obviously. That's no-brainer. The things such as inflation, growth of GDP, unemployment rates, currency exchange rates, all these things you need to consider, right? Because all of them will affect your strategy. You might have a great idea about the expansion of your business, right? But then you find out that there's no free people in the market, no available labor in the market, right? So then you will need to adjust your strategy, because from the economical component of environment is coming this negative effect. So you shouldn't forget about it. You should look at your investment plans and decide if the market or economy is going down. Maybe it's a good idea to postpone, right? Or you can get into trouble. So economical part of environment is also crucial. Now there's a social part of environment. This is maybe the key for many industries. That's how people are changing at large, like in general, how society is changing. How does that influence you, right? So when I was young, it was very rare to see a car in a family. Maybe 3 years ago, back in Europe, back in Central Europe, where I live in, right? So it was rare to see that each family has a car. Now each family has at least one car, but mostly 2 cars. Now that is a radical change in that might affect not only car manufacturers, obviously those the most, but spare cars producers, the provider of services like parking lots and car washing services, repair shops, and so on and so forth, dealers, right? So all these things, just because the change in social environment happened, the people became more affluent, and car became more of a social status. So you as a family, you want to project your social status. So now you need to have 2 cars. Then these social changes led to abrupt changes in how many companies do business, and they need to change their strategy, right? Another example of social changes, for example, in China, would be aging of population. So their population is older and older, and that has some obviously mostly negative effects on the economy. But you can somehow fight that, right? Once you realize that maybe your labor is going to be becoming older, you might adapt, change your manufacturing processes, adapt more, so it's more suitable for older generation, and so forth, right? So it's possible, but you need to change your strategy once you find out there's a deeper social change, and there's always some changes. Culture, economy, society is constantly changing and evolving, and those companies that can adapt to the change are those ones that survive in the long run. And as the technological changes, the last example, that is also pretty obvious. There's many disruptive technologies that are coming to the markets that require a response from the incumbents, right? So you have a strategy now. You want to be selling something in your nice shop that you just opened on the street, and then you find out that the biggest e-commerce platform just started offering your product, which is at discount price, right? So it was not possible to have an e-commerce platform just maybe 10 years back. This technological change radically changed the way how the shops are operating, for example, now. Like some of them serving only as basically front desk, some sort of showroom for the customers to come and get familiar with the products, but then they will anyway order online. So you need to account this in, and somehow work with that. So technological changes, internet, advances in communication, cars, advances in transportation, all these things will have a potential to radically change your strategy. But you need to be aware of them, preferably before they happen. Before they have this impact on your company, right? But that is true for all of those 4 elements, right? You should be aware of them before they happen. As I mentioned at the beginning of this short video, the successful investors are aware of what is happening in the environment before it actually happens. And in order to do that, some of them use this Pestel tool that allows them to not omit any single important part of environment. So this is Pestel as an environmental analysis tool.